She murdered her husband by turning his Moscow Mule into a death drink. Guilty across the board for Kouri Richins. Her case right now on Hot Mics with Billy Bush.
Oh, yeah, just me doing me, right?
Right as sharp. That's insane.
Billy Bush. What a pleasure.
Another compliment. There she is. Well, hello there. Welcome to Hot Mics. Thank you for joining us on TuneIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Happy St. Patrick's Day. May you reach heaven half an hour before the devil knows you're dead. And a St. Patty's Day message from Tucker Carlson. Should we start with that? Let's go. Thank you, Tucker. Oh, we don't have it right now. Okay, how about later on from Tucker Carlson? The luck of the Irish is not going to help Kouri Richins. She's going up the river for life, no doubt. So to the snowless mountains of Park City, Utah, we go. This captivating, gripping case. And that is Kouri Richins, who is guilty on all charges against her. 5. She's 35 years old, a mother of 3, and guilty of murdering her husband, Eric Richins. Here's a look right now at the verdict that came in yesterday.
Count 1, aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of aggravated murder. Count 2, attempted aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of attempted aggravated murder. Count 3, insurance fraud. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of insurance fraud. Count 4, insurance fraud. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of insurance fraud. Count 5, forgery. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of forgery.
Yeah. At that point, after aggravated murder and attempted aggravated murder, like if they had said, and as far as insurance forgery goes, yeah, not guilty. That woman knows what's happening. She's going up the river for a very long time, her entire life. An autopsy. So how did this guy die? This is such a riveting story. An autopsy revealed he had roughly 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his system. Administered through his nightly Moscow Mule that she would bring him in bed. I mean, that's just odd. Anyway, the date of his death, March 4th, 2022. So she fought this for 3 years, really, but it was 4 years overall since his death. Her version? Well, Kouri told authorities that one of their sons was having a bad dream, so she went to sleep in his room around 9:30 p.m. Charging documents dictate all of this. When she returned to the master bedroom, roughly 6 hours later, she said that she found her husband dead in their bed. She said, I turned over, I like to put my arm around Eric, and he was just cold, she told investigators this April 2023. It was like putting your arm over a cement brick, she said. On the night of Eric's death, Kouri called 911 at 3:21 a.m., and first responders arrived at the home in Camas, Utah. Now, I know Camas. That is about 15 minutes away from Park City, Utah, where I used to have a house for 15 years. Now, first responders noted that Eric had been dead a while. So in addition to aggravated murder, the 8-person panel convicted Kouri of attempted aggravated murder for a failed attempt to kill her husband on Valentine's Day, just like 2.5-3 weeks before his death. You see, on Valentine's Day, Kouri left her husband a sandwich and a note before leaving to meet up with her lover on the side. Later that day, Eric Richins texted his wife, hey, look, I'm going to lie down for a bit. If I don't start getting better, I'm going to head to the hospital. She's like, yeah, okay, having just left him a fentanyl sandwich. Hours later, Eric told 2 friends of his that he felt he was going to die after eating the sandwich. He said, I think my wife tried to poison me. Eric told the other friend he broke out in hives and then injected himself with an EpiPen and drank a bottle of Benadryl. You almost lost me, he told his buddies. After that, his wife, Kouri, allegedly asked the housekeeper for more fentanyl. Now, the housekeeper she's the carrier here. She asked for more, saying the previous drugs were not strong enough. Kouri Richins asked for some of the Michael Jackson stuff, she said. Carmen Lauber, the housekeeper, bought more. Cell phone data from Kouri and Carmen and the guy that Carmen got the drugs from, Robert Crozier, all line up. Puts them all at the same place, around the same gas station, all at the same time. So she was screwed. It's always the cell phone, right? It's always the cell phone with Karen Reed, whatever it is. You can't get away with anything in life. So just stop. The cell phone is going to rat you out. The trial lasted 13 days. Prosecutors called more than 40 witnesses who testified about purported troubles in the Richins' marriage, her affair with the other man, Robert Josh Grossman, who's basically a carpenter handyman, basically, who helped her in her house flipping business around Park City, and the millions of dollars that she owed in debt. All factors, the prosecutors argued, motivated her to fatally poison her husband. Bottom line, she did not have the money to leave Eric or the money to salvage her business. Although her friends said that Kouri Richins appeared to be financially successful. A forensic accountant testified her real estate business, flipping houses, was totally imploding. Her net worth was negative $1.6 million the day after her husband's death, the accountant said. Prosecutors also said Kouri Richins is an intensely ambitious person. She's a risk taker. There was a way forward. Eric had to die. Eric Richins' life was insured for approximately $2.2 million through several policies, including one prosecutors argued that Kouri Richins had applied for fraudulently. The application for the $100,000 life insurance policy included all kinds of errors, including an incorrect social security number for Eric. A forensic document specialist testified that Eric's signature on the application was probably forged. So there's your, fraud and forgery charges at the end. Eric was found dead in their home in Camas, Utah, early in the morning, March 4th, 2022. Can you believe that? 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his system. About a year after her husband's fatal overdose, Kouri published a children's book, right? It's a book to help their 3 sons, Carter, Ashton, and Weston, who are 9, 7, and 5. It was a book to help them cope with the grief of losing their father. Right? Weeks after appearing on a local TV show in the morning, like a morning show to promote the book, she was arrested and charged with the aggravated murder in connection to his death. So the defense rested its case last Thursday, and they didn't call any witnesses. Kouri Richins' attorneys argued she was wrongfully blamed for her husband's death after a very sloppy and biased investigation. The old, we're not going to entertain this defense. Kouri's defense attorney said they cannot tell you how Eric ingested that fentanyl. They haven't done their job, and now they want you to make inferences based on paper-thin evidence. So here's where Kouri was doomed, right? Like we said, the cell phone data, the geofencing, right, of the housekeeper, Carmen Lauber's phone, and Robert Crozier, the guy, the drug dealer with whom, from whom she got the drugs. It shows them all at a gas station drop-off on February 11th, February 26th, and March 9th, all 2022 on those dates. Kouri manually deleted more than 800 messages. Haas long to die in cold? Hello. 800 of them deleted with the woman, with the housekeeper from January to mid-March 2022, as well as a significant amount of cell phone data from that time period. Dozens of online searches in April of 2022, a month after the death of Eric. The online searches were not how long to die in cold, but how to remotely delete cell phone data, how investigators recover deleted messages, and a little info about women's prisons in Utah and insurance payments, just in case. The searches include, what is a lethal dose of fentanyl? Oh, God. Kouri Richins' Camas net worth she put in. She's trying to see what the internet thinks, she has for money. And then she searches, if someone is poisoned, what does it go down on the death certificate as? Doing all of her homework here. The prosecutor also showed that the prosecutor showed the jury a handwritten letter recovered from Kouri Richins' jail cell in September 2023. A little backtrack here, a covering of the tracks. The letter, he said, detailed a fake story that Kouri wanted her brother to relay to her then attorney, suggesting that Eric, her husband, asked her to purchase drugs from the housekeeper. However, never one time during the investigation did Kouri float to authorities that Eric had her buy drugs for him. The prosecutor pounced on that. 4 months after she's been arrested for her husband's murder, a year and a half after she murdered him, she knows that she bought fentanyl and she has to explain it. So how does she explain it? A year and a half after murdering Eric Richins, she blames it on him. Damn, girl. That's cold. Sentencing will be May 13th. But I can tell you this. I mean, we all know, right? She's gone. We welcome right now Nathan Evershed. Nathan is he's a lawyer from South Jordan, Utah. He's been all over this. He's a former prosecutor, a defense attorney now, but he's been following this case very closely. Nathan, how are you, my friend? I have to assume you are not shocked at all by the verdict.
No. It was actually Miss Richins who sunk herself by her, by her greed. She tried to kill her husband not once, but twice. And I think that evidence trying to overcome that plan and that scheme was impossible for the defense just to overcome that fact, because so much corroborated those two purchases of drugs and 2 different dates separated by about 3 weeks of trying to kill her husband. For a defense team, you can maybe explain way 1, but 2, it's almost impossible. And then her searches, her text messages, and then this letter that you just referenced, and that was a really good summary, by the way. It covered a lot of what was there. But that letter, it's called the Walk the Dog letter that was found in her jail cell, really corroborated the state's case that she was conniving, she was completely manipulative, she was making up stories, she literally wrote up a false children's story, and now she's trying to direct her brother to falsely testify and give false evidence about it. Totally damning. It was like manna from heaven for the prosecution to get something that incriminating from a jail cell. It was just overwhelming. So when the jury got all of that, after 3 weeks, they were out for less than 3 hours.
Wow.
Guilty as charged.
Wow. Do you recall in, the last 3 years, was there ever a time that she was looked upon sympathetically by the public as this poor woman, this victim who's, left with 3 boys to raise all her own? Boo-hoo?
Yeah, for that initial year before she was charged. She wasn't charged for about a year after Eric's death. So for that initial year, she's on local TV here in Utah, publicizing her book about grieving the loss of a father or a husband. It's just incredible if you can imagine that kind of deranged, kind of psychopathic behavior. That's exactly what happened, and that's what everyone frankly believed. But kudos to Eric's family, who went in and knew that something definitely happened here. They hired a private investigator who followed up on leads, feeding a lot of information to the Summit County Sheriff's Office, which isn't a large office. This is not, as you know, Billy, you've been living out here or for like 15 years, you mentioned. It's not a big community. It's one of our smaller counties. It's not a big prosecution office either.
The biggest case, Nathan, the biggest case that they've seen, before this was Gwyneth Paltrow skiing and getting hit by the doctor.
Correct.
Remember that?
Correct. And so here comes this conniving, allegation of poisoning of one's husband. And she looks like a nice person. All that, it's just almost unbelievable. But to unravel that takes a long time. Proving poisoning a year after, it's no small effort by a prosecution team, but they had the guts to do it.
Ironically enough, comment on the bottom here, since we are live on Facebook, TuneIn, and YouTube. Anita Sandwich is her name online. She said, I heard the jury also had dinner within the deliberations, so it was an even faster verdict. I don't know if you have any insight to that, but they clearly knew what they were doing when this came up. Do you recall the time when it turned, and has it been followed, super closely by people in the area from the beginning?
Yes. Yes, I think it kind of turned obviously when there were charges, and the charges were really relying on the housekeeper and cell phone evidence, as you mentioned, and whatnot. But then I think popular opinion really turned when that walk the dog letter was known. That was just, I mean, so incriminating. You cannot orchestrate better evidence for a prosecution team in a case like this than to have your own personal written out statement saying how to direct this evidence and direct your brother and help, have your mom share different things for the attorney. It was just incredible.
You said you talked about Eric Richins' family and hiring a private investigator to look into all of this, to the psychopathic type of behavior. Was there ever an expert that detailed what this woman is afflicted with, other than just cold-bloodedness?
No, there was never any kind of diagnosis or any kind of person that was proffering any kind of specific mental health issue. I think they really pointed, I mean, obviously the actions kind of demonstrate themselves like this is someone that's quite deranged. But the actions here showed that she had a prenuptial agreement, meaning, or at least her interpretation was that should she divorce him, she was not going to get much, if anything. So her own plan was therefore to get out of this awful financial desperate situation that she was in, was to go forward and then to kill him and get life insurance and get the estate and get all of these different things. She almost got away with it. At the end of the day, had there not been two, I wonder what kind of case there would have been. But the fact is that apparently she was quite greedy. She really wanted him dead. And so when she couldn't kill him the first time, she went forward with the Moscow Mule and was successful in doing that the second time.
I feel bad that the guy, Robert Josh Grossman, who was her lover on the side, I mean, he was probably just having fun. He had no idea what he obviously lost interest in her when he realized he was sleeping with a crazy person. Look at this comment on the bottom here. Hens Homestead says she asked her brother to pay for the cost, and she was going to pay him back with the money that she made off the book. I mean, this is diabolical stuff. I mean, going and writing a book, a children's book that you give to your kids. It's the type of book that's like, don't worry, Daddy's still with us in spirit. We still have Daddy with us. It's just a different kind of relationship, but he's here. I mean, just like crazy stuff.
Yeah. And that's why, Billy, it was kudos to the prosecution team. It is not an easy case to do something like this. I mean, like a drive-by shooting, for example, and someone gets killed, that's one thing. But to unveil this motive and this planning and this manipulation over the course of time, and then to show all of this financial motive and boyfriend on the side and all of this stuff. I mean, it took incredible amount of time and witnesses and exhibits to do it, and they did a very good job doing that.
It's all about the cell phone, wouldn't you
Yeah.
say? I mean, isn't that, have you had to, in your own practice, have you had to, get really brushed up and polished on geofencing and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's incredible because it's so persuasive. Because a jury doesn't really understand manipulation or motive. Like when it comes
Criminals
to
need to
this
understand how that that
Right.
you will not get away with it. The phone
Correct.
tells the story.
And the thing is, the jury all know about how phones work essentially, and they find it to be very credible. Call detail records, cell phone towers, locations, all of that. It's enormously persuasive. And in this case, all of it corroborated the state's theory that it was the housekeeper, Carbon Lauber, that was asked to obtain fentanyl or asked to obtain illicit drugs. She got it. The cell records corroborated that. All these text messages, which were subsequently deleted, corroborated all that. Yeah, the cell phone is just deadly. You don't get away with stuff. You just don't.
Nathan Evershed is with us, former prosecutor and defense attorney from South Jordan, Utah, following this case every step of the way. You're so eloquent on this. I wonder, when you saw her reaction when they, or I would say non-reaction, when they read the verdict and she's guilty on all 5 counts. I mean, she doesn't cry. She doesn't break down. This is not an innocent person would be like, oh my God, they're taking my life away. Like, what the hell? This is so unjust. And she would be, falling apart. And she was kind of like, oh boy,
Yeah.
they got me.
Yeah. I think when they saw that the jury was out less than 3 hours, I think her team probably prepped her that this is not going to go well for you. So just kind of be ready. But I would have to say her demeanor with the evidence in the case and even during the trial, but mostly the evidence in the case, there was this body cam video footage from the day that Eric Richins died. So they're there and they see her. And for me, just as an outside observer, never seen this, I just thought it was incredibly creepy. She actually wrote a letter or a summary, a journal summary about what happened that day, as if it was something that, this happened, regularly every day, going to the store or whatever. That was also very creepy. The walk the dog letter, very creepy. The cell phone searches, very creepy. How she related things to some people and not to other people, very creepy. I mean, I think the jury just walked away with this thinking that this is just insanity. This is who would do something
Yeah.
like this? Probably someone with this kind of personality trait. And so they all walked out back into that jury room. And as a reminder, they were told not to think about it, not to deliberate, not to talk to anybody about this. And then 8 people get back to that jury room, and apparently all of them had the same opinion. She was guilty of sin.
Yeah, Kouri Richins, aggravated murder, attempted aggravated murder. She's done. She's sentenced May 13th. She's going up the river, but it seems like, I mean, she didn't even think about, did she even have the brain connectivity to put together that they're going to see the fentanyl in the system, and fentanyl is a lethal narcotic we all know about, and they're going to chase this down because they've got if it's not murder, or if he wasn't a drug addict who did it to himself, then they've got a massive drug problem in their area that's now affecting nice, families and things. I mean, she had no idea that this was going to unleash chaos in 3 different directions.
Right, right. And what's kind of scary is that she almost got away with it because initially how this was viewed was, okay, this looks like some kind of overdose. We don't know this guy, all these things. But then it took that family coming in, private investigator, digging into all of this stuff, talking about this prior attempts just 3 weeks before and going forward. And then it took them a year to build up a case where they felt like this could stick. And you know what? They built up one heck of a
Well,
case.
that doesn't look good for the police department or the DA, does it? If they were like, "Wow, look, yeah, I guess it's just a guy we thought was a normal guy, but he's a drug addict, and so there we go." And the family had to keep this thing going and get it back on course. That does not look good for them. Have they had answered to that?
Well, I mean, in defense of the police a little bit, it's this very small office. They walk in, they see that they don't know these people. They've never had any criminal connection to them. There's no criminal history. They walk in, and this individual is apparently now dead. And then the medical examiner says it's fentanyl, which is not totally unheard of. That people do overdose on fentanyl. So that's how they're initially looking at it, but they didn't give up on it either. They wanted to dig in and kind of see if we can do something. And the thing is, Billy, they couldn't do this prematurely by just charging her like a month or 2 later without a ripe and ready to go case. I mean, the judge could have just tossed and said, you don't have enough evidence. But it took them time. They had to get that housekeeper lined up. They had to get those things going, get witnesses. So it does take time to unravel what was premeditated and planned for apparently weeks or months.
Wow. Nathan Evershed, boy, you are so eloquent on this. Are you an Irishman or just for today? Because I like your tie.
Yeah, I'm an Irishman. I do have Irish in my blood. So happy St. Patrick's Day, Billy.
Wow. You expect she's gone for life, right? May 13th. Nothing else to know here. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, it's just good to know the judge has 2 options on count 1 alone, and there's multiple other felonies, of course, but count 1 alone is the big one. It's the aggravated murder. It's a minimum of 25 years and up to life, or the judge could actually impose life without the possibility of parole. So it'll be interesting to see what he does.
I feel sorry for those little boys, 9, 7, and 5. I guess they go with Eric's family. They were smart enough to hire the PI and get the investigation back on the right track. They're probably have the wherewithal to take care of the boys, but that is a really tragic beginning to life.
Awful, awful, totally conniving. And this is what movies are made out of, I mean, it's just, luckily we don't encounter these kinds of people all the time.
Right. Nathan, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let's stay in touch. You're terrific.
Thanks, Billy.
Thank you. Wow. How good was he? He knows what he's talking about. That was...
I really liked it. It's nice to get somebody, near the case, on the case, been following the case in Utah, in the neighborhood,
I just can't believe it. I mean, it's just like, immediately you think the stupidity of this cold-blooded idiot, but she's obviously a very mentally unwell person. I mean, this is just... Boy, what the fantastical idea that she was going to run off with and by the guy, the boyfriend, the paramour, he was like, no. I mean, he was like, it was more of a fantasy, like whatever. It was just like, we would talk about it when we were in the heat of the moment. He wasn't planning on going with her. Okay, we move on. Another topic here that's hot as can be, and that is Kristen Cabot. Remember Kristen Cabot? She was the woman who was caught on the Jumbotron at Foxborough at the Coldplay concert. And Chris Martin just walks out and goes, "Hey, oh my God, look up there." And there they are, hugging. And both duck out of the frame. And he says, "What? They must be having an affair or something." And then the world thought they did. 300 billion views? Why did we need that so badly? And can that number even be possible? She's done one interview she said she's going to do on camera. And it was probably a lifelong dream of hers to sit with Oprah, especially with the audience gathered around. So you can't blame her for that. And here's what she said.
In the initial moments, I'm sure it was funny to people. You know, I can appreciate that. I've certainly seen funny things online and forwarded them around and clicked on them. I just don't think people really stop and think about there's real humans behind
There's a
this.
life there.
And it is incredibly destructive. And I listen, I've seen funny things and sent them around too, probably not giving it a ton of thought before this happened. I'm thinking very differently now than I was. But I think people thought it was funny. I think our world is, news is a really sad thing to watch. I think we are constantly inundated with bad news.
Yeah,
and this
I've heard
seemed
some
funny.
people say that video seen 300 billion times by only 8 billion people on the planet was the thing that united people, that people were united in their judgment. And I feel bad for us as human beings that that's what we did to you.
Thank you.
We were
Yeah,
all united
this is
in
why
the
she did
judgment
the interview
of
with Oprah.
whatever it is you were doing, you shouldn't have been doing it, and we could.
This is why she did the interview with Oprah, right? It was worked out in advance, and I am 100% on your side. And by the way, what do you think about that? It was established in the interview that the woman was separated. She was separated. And the man, this was the murky part, she said to Kristen, and he was separated. I mean, we think. So he had told, it seems to me that Kristen has not spoken to him since, or that sent them in their separate directions. But allegedly, I guess he had told her that he was separated. Is it her fault? Did she deserve any of that heat? I'm kind of with Oprah. I think I probably would have made the same case. Like, I don't think that was, her fault. Tell me if you disagree. We're looking at you in the comments section. Eric Jasper says, then why did they hide like they were caught red-handed? Well, I think she also mentioned that her husband, from whom she was separated, was also at the concert. So, she doesn't really want to be seen, I moved on very quickly. And he knew the boss. So that's why. Kristen is the victim here. I'll defend that. Yeah. 300 billion views and a lambasting for a woman who's separated. If he wasn't separated, then it's on him right. Then it's his mistake. And all of a sudden we're talking to her and not him. Joe says, I don't know who to believe, Kristen or the guy. What did the guy say? Did he say he was separated at the time? Maybe, in a raw chain of command at work here. She admits it was a bad decision. There's Oprah right there. VRB says Oprah's looking for another Meghan Markle moment. Ooh. Chain of command at work. She admits this was a bad decision. I like that one. Well, I don't know. But we've heard from her. 300 billion views of that video. That cannot be a correct statistic. There's no way we are all that depraved. We've got so many things happening in the world, and that is what we watch 300 billion times. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, I want to continue on Nicole Kidman here for a second because she is having a moment, right? Boy, did she look good at the Oscars. And, of course, everything with a big star, has a rollout and timing is everything. And there's a fashion follow-up for her in this. She did a photo shoot in Variety. The year of Nicole, here it comes. Look at the picture on the right. Is that Photoshop, or is that like you may be working all the time shooting 3 or 4 series a year? But I mean, that's a serious workout regimen. Hair looks amazing. She's, clothes are always, she's a total fashion icon. There's no question about it. But people always, the narrative in the entertainment news business is revenge hot, right? This is revenge hot. This is like, you remember when Jennifer Garner looks good. Oh, take that, Ben Affleck. Ooh, or with J-Lo, whatever, take that. And now with Keith Urban, oh, Keith, take that. Look what you're missing out on. Keith, alleged relationship with the younger woman with whom he's on tour. The truth is, Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman, were they really aligned? Like I mean, it's amazing they made it as long as they did. They've got these beautiful daughters, right? Sunday Rose. But I mean, I don't think so. He's a country music star, and she's doing 3 series a year.
Yeah, Billy, she's got the new one. Letty and I are watching Scarpetta, based on the big novels right now. It just came out last week. We're halfway through it already.
Is it good?
We're like mixed, but we can't stop watching it. So I don't know what you say, but she looks great, like you say. I mean,
everything she does, I think, is good. Every series she does is good, and she's one of those rare actors. Yes, I'll say actor because they don't like to be called actresses. One of those rare actors who just her name alone will make me watch at least episode 1. But I just think that the alignment isn't. You can't blame Keith. Someone like a Matt Damon, who's a big star, a Luciana is his backup dancer, right? She's taking care of the family, the operation, and when they go and shoot like that, I'm sure Luciana comes and visits with the kids, or maybe less now, but Robert Downey Jr. and his marriage, right? I think when both people are that big, it's just impossible. And Keith did a great job being, for all intents and purposes, a +1. She would sing in the studio with him occasionally and put it online. But he went to every event with her and stood there on her arm, a good 4 inches shorter than her, especially when she devastatingly wore the heels. Take it from me. I know what this is like. But, the fact that they made it as long as they did is amazing. So I don't think there's any revenge hot or whatever. What Nicole needs is a nice guy who's an accountant or a lawyer or a coach, and he travels and he sees her on the set, or just a nice, young, hot lover. Because her dedication is the work. She's always working. Her mission, she said, is to, provide opportunity for female directors and female producers and create, better working environment in Hollywood for females. So that's her platform. Okay, let's see some more fashion from Oscar night, which was just on Sunday. Some of the looks we might have missed. I just love fashion. Look at Hailey Bieber, just an A+, so gorgeous. Anya Taylor-Joy, that's creepy little outfit to me. It's. I don't know how old she is, but it seems like a little a teddy that belongs on a young person. Bella Hadid in a Prada top. Ooh, she looked fantastic. Any more to look at? Let's see. Oh, okay. Olivia Rodrigo. Yeah, that's a fun little outfit. I like that. Not too bad. Baby blue is.
I love that color, Billy.
It's not what you expect on Kendall Jenner, huh? And boy, does she pull it off. And there's Kaya Gerber, Givenchy. Yeah, pretty sexy. I like it. What else? Do we have any more to look at? Keep rolling them if you got them, fellas. Oh, there we go. The woman of the hour in the middle right there, Sarah Pigeon, playing CBK in Love Story, wearing, fittingly, Calvin Klein, where Carolyn Bessette worked. Chase Infinity, don't know who that is. Louis Vuitton, Teyana Taylor, oof, in Chanel. That's pretty good. And she needed those arms free in that Chanel in case she had to smack that security guard for mouthing off to her and getting a little handsy with her backstage.
Here we go, Billy. Last one for you, Bill. Here we go.
Let's see it. Kim in Gucci. All right. Yeah, we saw her whole photo shoot there. They posted her whole photo shoot done in a closet with smoke machines and all this thing. It's the Oscars. Like Kim Kardashian, is that her night? I don't know. It seems to me that everyone and their mom comes out after it takes on a whole life of its own as soon as the ceremony is over. Can't stand Tayana, says Jackie in the comments section. So ego-based. Okay. Hailey Bieber never seems happy. Well, that's part of it. You can't smile too bright. That's part of the look. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about something that, there was a moment on the red carpet that Jimmy Kimmel shared. He's about his view of America these days in an ass-kissy interview on the red carpet. Sean Hannity. I was on Sean Hannity last night. He asked me about it. Sean likes to try and walk a horse to the trough there and see if he'll eat. And I think I handled it well. What Jimmy said, how I handled Sean, coming up in a second. But first, today's sponsors, PrizePicks. It's our favorite place, hands down, to win money while watching our favorite teams. The app is so easy to use. All you do is you pick more or less on a few player statistics, and you can win up to 2,000 times your cash on a single lineup. Right now, PrizePicks will give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. So just use the promo code HOTMICS when you get on there and download that PrizePicks app and get cracking. It's so easy. March Madness is here. Holy mackerel, it's about to get rolling. And you can win or, like me, lose some money using it. It's Hot Mics with Billy Bush, brought to you by our friends at LAGOLF. So last night, I did Hannity, Sean Hannity's show, called in the morning. I assume they wanted to talk about Oscars. And of course, Sean's favorite topic is woke Hollywood and the way they smash Trump and they get political on the stage. I didn't think it was that political, given the times that we're living in and how political it could be. I didn't think it was. But he hates Hollywood. Javier Bardem, we talked about Javier, who said, "Free Palestine." Charitra Chandran, who is from Bridgerton, she also said, we're demanding a ceasefire in Gaza, which, of course, was 6 months ago. That's been in place for a while, but, she went to Oxford. I thought she might know that. And then Jimmy Kimmel, of course. Jimmy Kimmel, who's had a resurgence thanks to Trump. He's survived the Trump attack, which many don't, and he's only risen because of it. So I guess he would be a voice for resistance. Like in his case, it worked out better than it's ever been in the last 10 years. So I navigated dexterously because I kind of like Kimmel these days. I kind of like some of the stuff he's doing. So here he is. Here's Kimmel on the carpet with Mark Malkin.
Are you exhausted?
Am I exhausted?
By the state of the world and knowing every night you've got to say something.
You be looking in my face and go, you're exhausted.
No, but I mean,
yes, I'm exhausted. Of course, it's ridiculous. We live in a ridiculous country. We always lived in a ridiculous country, but it was always ridiculous in a fun Mr. T kind of way.
Right.
Now we've got a different Mr. T. Yeah.
Mr. T. Wow, I didn't think of it as a Mr. T.
Well, you know what?
He's a little slow, Mark. He's just, I'm so busy right now kissing your ass that I cannot keep up with what you're actually saying. I do not miss the red carpet at the Oscars. I stopped doing it the last 2 years of Extra. I said, please send someone else. I just can't do it. You have no idea how humiliating it is, especially like when you're 50 years old and you're standing behind this box hedge. And they always say, oh, what tuxedo do you want to wear? I said, save the money. This show needs the money. Don't waste it on a tuxedo for me because it's only my left arm that is going to be seen. In fact, just buy me a sleeve. And I'll just put that on. But they don't really stop much anymore. Nicole Kidman doesn't stop, and Leo doesn't stop. And, you get some supporting actor. You get the documentary short live action guys. Oh, they're dying to talk and the whole thing. And, of course, Wolfgang comes out with but it's just such a dead event in that regard. Octavia, let's get her comment in just because we like balance here. I hate Jimmy Kimmel, she said. But I don't miss that red carpet and Access Hollywood. I will say, back in the day, I loved doing the red carpet for Access Hollywood because they all stopped. When I started at Access in 2002, to the end of 2001, Everybody did the red carpet. They loved it. We had the biggest names. We were mashing them up. It was fun. That was the glory days. Did you hear that Access Hollywood got canceled after 30 years on the air? Boy, I mean, since it began in the end of the late 90s and in the early aughts when I was there, entertainment news television was great. It was a lot of fun. And to reminisce about the death and something, I was there for half the time, 15 years. Executive producer at Access Hollywood for, I think, almost all of it, or 23 years is Rob Silverstein, who I worked with and with whom I worked, and we had, oh my God, some of the greatest times. But this is obviously no surprise. I mean, when you were running the show, it's like we had to find ways to stay alive.
Well, Bill, I remember, didn't you have a moment with Julian Schnabel or
at the Oscars?
Yes, it was
Julian Schnabel had inevitably, you don't have a chance to see every single movie, right, when you're on the carpet. And so you got to pick them. And you it's like, well, I'm going to take a chance on not seeing this one. Julian Schnabel comes up, his publicist thrusts Schnabel in my face, the director. Remember his son dated Heidi Klum for a long time? Schnabel comes up, and I'm interviewing him, and he gets mad at me, and he goes, "Did you even see my movie?" And I go, "No, Julian, I didn't see your movie. I didn't have time, okay? I just had it with him." It was so fun.
As you were talking about that,
and I'm not going to see it, Julian.
That just popped into my head, that moment.
And don't forget when I started on Access Hollywood in like 2002, was my first year, I had an interview with Tommy Lee Jones. And it's always the answer when people ask me who was the most difficult. I go back to my first year on the job, and it was Tommy Lee Jones, who was so mean to me. No matter what I asked him, his answer was either yes or no, and no elaboration. So he loved the dead air, knowing that the little rookie in front of him was melting. And I always said, when I get that son of a bitch back, I'm gonna let him have it. I'm gonna let Tommy Lee. So he comes at the Oscars. It's the year he's No Country for Old Men, maybe, or something. He's nominated. And I'm like, there comes that anti-American, what I was going to tear him apart, that grumpy old. And he walks up, and I go, "Hello, Tommy." And I lean out, and I'm ready for him. And he goes, "Oh, hold on. I want to introduce to you the three apples of my eye, my three beautiful daughters." And he comes out, and the girls are like, "Daddy!" And they're hugging on him. And I'm like, ah, shit. And he turned out to be this sweet dad in the moment. So I didn't get to it. I was not going to attack the dad in front of the daughters.
Not with the daughters. No, there's no surprise about what happened at Access Hollywood. And I say this to everybody. There's nothing really the producers could have done. Like this show, you might have tried to change the show, and I don't think it would have mattered.
Why is Extra still on the air, where I went for 5 years?
They kept cutting that budget, and Warner Brothers, obviously, but that'll be gone after. I mean, as soon as they have something to replace it.
I think Fox doesn't want. They don't. I mean, in the Fox station group, which is where Extras
keeps
now
it alive.
They like to. They don't like change. They want.
Right.
I get it.
So I mean, that'll be gone. ET will eventually. ET the
ET
Grand
will go
Master
for another 5 years. Don't you think?
Maybe, but that'll be gone too. You just can't. The budgets. 1 year at Access Hollywood, the budget was $48 million.
No.
$48 million.
And what was the budget last year?
Probably 15.
So from 48 million down to 15. Yeah,
right.
Clean
And
house.
I'm sure ET's budget at some point was probably 75 million. They were paying Mary Hart $5 or $6 million in the glory days.
To read a teleprompter.
To walk in 5 minutes before the show starts and read a teleprompter.
That was my greatest frustration with the show, and it's really the reason why we started Access Hollywood Live, and really the reason I went to the Today Show, though short-lived, and the reason I'm sitting here in this moment right now. I thank you because I was able to change the show to match me and what I did, which was I liked to entertain while delivering entertainment news. I liked moments. I liked original stuff, not just reading the teleprompter and telling people about it, but our own way of entertaining the audience, which, like Mario Lopez, bless his heart, he's a teleprompter reader. He doesn't give a shit what you put in there. You could literally put in a Chinese food menu and he would
put
read
it in the prompter or hand him a card with the questions.
He didn't care.
And that's it.
And to his
that's
credit, by
his
the
thing.
way, because the producers of Extra, where he used to be, they were like, oh, it was great. We just dump anything in. He left literally 1 minute after the show. Didn't care but it was never like, oh, Mario wants to change something. He doesn't like the way we said this. Now, that was my problem. I was too opinionated.
No, Bill, but you were fine about it. But at times you were boorish about it. You would come on too strong about it, as opposed to, and we had this conversation where I said, Bill, there's different ways of telling people things. You could walk in and say, let's say a script you don't like. You could say, this script sucks. Or you could say, Rob, can we change the script?
Yeah, hold on. Steve's timing is a little off today. We're in the middle of something else, but he did put up a picture that is.
Well, that's myself with remember, our luggage did not arrive.
Look how young you look, and me, I'm just like a baby. I think.
And Michael Jackson and will.i.am, and I believe that was in Dublin.
Yep.
Outside Dublin at the incredible.
That's inside the recording studio on a farm in Dublin, outside of Dublin, where. Am I wrong? Did they blindfold us, or is that a dream I had? Or they blackened out the van so we didn't see where we were going or something? No, I dreamed that.
No, we walked outside. Do you
That's
remember, Bill?
That's what they call a recovered memory.
So the backstory is Michael had been acquitted. He went to Dubai or something at first. He ended up in a farm 45 minutes outside of Dublin. I was working with his publicist, the great Raymond Bain, for a long time. They trusted us. Michael called my house at one point and said, how we've treated him at least fairly during the trial, and we can come interview him. So we flew all the way. And remember, George Bush's plane got in the way somehow of us. We had to land in Chicago or something. I remember that. Our luggage was gone, whatever. We landed. We got there. We walk into this room. Michael's upstairs. You can hear the kids floating around. Oh. And this was his final interview he ever did before he tragically passed away. And you do a great description of him walking down the spiral staircase.
First time I laid eyes on Michael Jackson face to face, and this was dramatic because we were at this beautiful countryside estate outside of Dublin, and Michael's staying in a cottage house like, the Smurfs would live in, just a thatched roof, and it's a way, what looked like a horse stable was really, the recording studio inside. And so you walked across the beautiful lawn to the little cottage, and they're like, that's where Michael is, and he'd like to chat with you in there before we begin filming. And so I was like, okay, well, can Rob come? Because I'm like terrified. I'm so nervous to see Michael Jackson. I've never seen him face to face. So we go into this really nondescript, very cozy little cottage. And we're sitting at a very small circular breakfast table. And there's a spiral staircase that goes right up to the one bedroom that's above. And we're talking to Raymond, the publicist, and we're sitting there, and the anticipation is building. And then you hear the boots across the wooden floor above you. Boom. And I'm like, oh, it's a heavy foot. And then I'm looking at the staircase, and just then I see one boot. Then I see the military stripe up the side, the dark blue pants with the gold stripe up the side. I see the military pants, the boot, and then he just comes around, and as the body gets revealed, it comes around the corner, and there's Michael. Exactly, with the white face and the hair like this.
And the lipstick.
And the lipstick, and he sticks out this hand, and he goes, hi, I'm Michael. And I'm like, I know who you are, and I grab his hand. I swear to God, I was shaking the hand of a Philadelphia Eagles lineman. It was so the biggest hand I've ever, in fact, I couldn't believe how big it was.
With terrible nails.
And around his nails, as I looked at the hand, he had just eaten the skin all around his, so nervous or so much frenetic energy. He had eaten the skin all around the nails. The nail bed was totally fucked. But it was just flooring how big he was, tall, and
so it was interesting. We sat down with him at the table, and I don't even know if he knew why we were there, because he was like, can you guys come in and maybe shoot for a couple of minutes and you'll leave? And I'm like, well, Michael, that's really probably not going to happen. We flew all the way here.
12 hours.
We're not just going to do that. And I don't know if you remember, but at that moment, I walked out of the room for a second and went to the crew who's outside. I said, you need to plant microphones all over that studio.
And never stop rolling. Ever.
I don't know.
Ever put your camera down.
Right. I don't know if we're going to get a microphone on him, but I know we're going to get him in there, and I know we're going to do something. So I don't want to risk it by you having to all of a sudden put a mic in the back. That becomes a whole thing, and that could scare him. So I don't want to get
the
involved
good news
in
and the bad news out of the whole thing was the bad news was that it ended up being an abridged thing. We didn't get to do what we wanted to do, sit down. We were just sort of, he wanted to do a fly on the wall kind of thing where we just caught him, picked up his
With
collaboration with Will.i.am. And so, fine.
It went like 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff. But the good news was, for us being, it was his last interview.
Well, he really liked us.
Yeah, we ended up tagging along with him to London after that, to the
later.
World Music Awards. The thing about Michael, if you told him, you're going to win the Bob's Big Boy Legend of All Time Award, he would show up.
Well, he won. So we came back 2 weeks later to the World Music Awards and the Guinness Book of World Records. He was getting some award, and we were in their office at the Guinness, and he walked in, and you played like Billie Jean or something, and he starts getting into it, and we did interview that. But every time we see him, and his bodyguards recognize us, so they let us right in, near him.
It's Michael's
hugging,
friends. We're like, hey.
Everything. And then we had dinner with him.
The dinner story is the best story.
Okay. So I've told the story before, but I'll tell you. So we go to Nobu, the one, I guess there's two in London, the upstairs one, and so we're upstairs waiting for him. Is myself,
paparazzi outside as Michael arrives.
And
it's
Steve
crazy.
Harding was with us as well. We're all there waiting for Michael, and he arrives, and up the stairs he comes, hugs us, like we know him for forever, sweet as could be. And now we're at this, and he's with Sir Philip Green from Topshop, and he's
his
with
lawyer Peter Lopez, who was my neighbor
exactly
in California,
and who else,
and
Bill?
friend.
Come on, the designer.
Roberto Cavalli?
Give me a little Cavalli.
I love Cavalli. Cavalli loves me, but Cavalli loves the ladies more than any man you'll see. I sang that too, Cavalli.
I know.
And he was like, I love the ladies. I do. He had models all around him.
It was so much fun. So now we're sitting down to eat at Nobu, and you're maybe to my left, and Harding's to my right, and Michael's directly across from us. And he's, of course, quiet. He's not saying anything. And he's just oddly sitting there. And he's maybe picking at edamame or something. Okay. And finally, you got to find something to say. So I say, Michael, this is an obvious, idiotic question. You like Nobu? And his response in his voice was, I love Chinese food. I've told the story 100 times. It lands every time. It's just great. But it was one of the
It was very racist answer.
There were so many great moments in the 23 years that I was at the show, in the 15. You were the show, and the show didn't start well at all. We had Giselle Fernandez, who's a big talent, and Larry Menti, a big talent. There was no chemistry.
Larry Menti, no one had ever heard of. He was a local Philadelphia guy.
And he had a very bad complexion, meaning he was very pale. And I couldn't darken him up. I like to darken people up.
He looked like an insurance salesman at the time,
But he's very smart and clever, but a great local TV guy. But not for this. This was still the glamorous days of the show where there was some glam to it. You had to be that way. And he was not, okay?
Things got legit when you replaced Larry with...
So then Giselle was gone and Larry was gone, and we hired the legend, Pat O'Brien. Who I worked with at CBS Sports. And I'll give you a little story here that most people, I've never told. I looked at all the resumes. I wasn't the original executive producer. Jim Van Messel was. He went from ET to Access Hollywood. I eventually replaced him. But before I got to the show, there was a bunch of resumes of possible hosts. Pat's was one of them. And I looked at it, and it said, too old.
Too old.
That's what, on his resume, somebody wrote, too old.
And he was the host for 10 years.
After that, yes.
Right?
And he lasted a long time. They thought he was too old when he was in his 40s.
Pat O'Brien had one of the greatest mustaches.
Glasses, mustache. Nobody,
great voice.
Nobody prepared less. Nobody. But
he was the Larry King of entertainment news.
But it didn't matter.
His
him.
mustache doubled as a celebrity detector.
You know,
what
I've
I mean?
told this story. You know, when Matt and Ben won for Good Will Hunting at the Golden Globes, and they're big Boston Celtic fans. This was the Larry Bird era of the Celtics, and Pat was the halftime guy for the NBA. So they watched Pat all the time on the NBA. So when they walk into the room, Pat says to him, like Pat would always say, "How great is this?" Because that's the way Pat always started. And they said about as great as being with Pat O'Brien. That's all you needed to know right then. We had the great equalizer. E.T. was Goliath, and we were David. And they had all the great time periods. They'd been on the air forever. They were very competitive, just like I was and you were and Pat was. And we wanted to take them down so badly. And we did everything we could. But once you stuck Pat out in the red carpet, everyone else is behind the bushes.
Pat
Pat
would walk out around the fence, stand on the red carpet in front of the barricades, and no one had the balls to tell him to go back. He just didn't tell that.
He didn't care, and
Yeah.
I was all for it, of course.
And all the other shows
Okay.
would go, no fair. There's Pat. He's not allowed.
That's right.
Yeah.
Pat was one of them.
That's
he
true.
was a celebrity
In his own right.
Okay, and for that time, he was incredible. I know Pat had problems later on when he left the show and all that, but he really saved the show. That show could have been off the air in 1 year. We had such a bad first year, and then when when they couldn't beat us, so they decided to pay Pat. They paid him like $4 million to go to The Insider, a show that lasted just a couple of years. It kind of ruined Pat because all of a sudden he had free reign to do anything he wanted.
Well, we all know.
And
I mean,
he was up at the Four Seasons in New York. There's a bar downstairs, and it didn't end well for Pat there. And thankfully he recovered and everything was fine. But he left. And I remember speaking to Jeff Zucker, who was running. By the way, you should have Jeff Zucker on this show.
I asked him just a few weeks ago. He said right now he can't. And I said, is that because they're going to hire
He
you
could talk
to run
all about the landscape of everything.
I think they're going to try and hire Jeff Zucker for CBS, CNN, the whole new David Ellison group, because CBS News will come in. Now, does Barry Weiss take over and run CNN too, as well as CBS News? Or do they put in a Zucker above? To run? That was my feeling, and he said, I can't now, but I will, soon enough. We'll get together.
He'd be a great guest.
And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Yes. Maybe there's an announcement, and then we'll do it. But I'm going to stay on top of him. And he did text me right back.
Well, he's great.
But I know what you're saying. It then led to me, and I replaced Pat O'Brien, which I was not ready to do. And I fought tooth and nail, and I said, I do not want to do this.
You were fine that night. Remember, we went, no, but then we went to some bar, and we ran into the woman from Page Six, Paula Froelich, or whatever, who used to go after you all the time, and we ripped her in the bar, whatever. And then you called panic the next day, which I should have expected. You decided, well, this isn't a good move. I'm not doing it. And then eventually, I think you actually went and spoke to Zucker about it.
I went and spoke to Zucker, but I spoke to him. This is actually something that no one knows. The night that we sort of agreed to the deal, and I was pushed into it, and because I always wanted to be a talk show host. I wanted to be like Little Regis. And I remember when I met with Jeff Zucker, he said to me, never mind that. You've got enough. We need you to take over for Pat. Pat liked you. He validated you. You're maybe a little earlier than we wanted to have you, in the starting lineup, but we want you. And we're gonna. And we ended up tripling my salary. Tripling for I was making whatever I was making out in New Jersey, and all of a sudden tripled to move to Los Angeles. And I was like, oh shit. That night I ended up getting hammered with my friends because I was like, this thing is going down. Every 20 minutes my agent would call and say, they've moved to this number. And I'm like, oh shit, well keep going. I don't know. Leave me alone. I'm with my guys. And I didn't know what was happening. I felt out of control. Then to find out the final numbers agreed upon, oh my God, I tell my wife, Sydney, we're moving to Los Angeles. I drink too much. The next day, probably not enough water, whatever, I'm on the train, I'm coming in, I have a meeting with Zucker that day, because I'm going to tell him, no, I'm going to try and talk him into giving me the third hour of the Today Show, which came 15 years later for 2 months. But I had a massive panic attack. The biggest panic attack.
I believe you called
I didn't know
me
what
in
a
the middle
panic
of it.
attack was. And I was in a car and the walls were closing and I couldn't breathe and I thought I was going to die. Like it was a real panic attack. And so the only thing I could think of was my medical doctor's office on 92nd and Park. And I tell the cab to go there. And I get out and I go in and I go, I don't know what I'm doing. And he looked at me and he goes, you're having a panic attack. And a panic attack is, look at me, a physiological cascade of emotions. You're fine. Breathe into this bag 10 times And he calms me down, and I'm like, okay. And an hour later, I have a meeting with Jeff Zucker, and I am rattling. I am like coming down from synapses firing electrical shocks through my body, like I don't know what. So I had this whole plan of like, Jeff, I don't want to do this. I really want this. Can you guarantee me this? I was going to negotiate with the great Jeff Zucker, and I was going to make this great thing. I ended up going into his office going, okay.
When do I start?
Sure. All right. July? Fine. Okay. Thanks. Boom. And I left just so he didn't think I was a crazy person. Like, what's wrong with him? That was the easiest negotiation ever. I don't know why he even wanted to meet with me.
Right.
Next thing you know, we fly out, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it was, and it started off a little rough because you were probably not at that moment completely ready.
Totally.
But within a couple of months, it was fire. Putting you on the red carpet, getting you in the studio. You know, you and Nancy are the complete opposites.
Yeah.
Okay? But it worked for that time.
Yeah.
Okay? We actually introduced you
Well,
to...
I was terrible. The first interview I ever did was with Sir Ian McKellen, and I was like, I'm going to be great at my job, darn it.
That was in New York, though.
It was in New York, and I did a whole... Yeah, I did a whole... This is
You
where
had
you helped
Sardi's.
me. I did an interview with Ian McKellen.
Supposed to go like 6 minutes long.
You would think it was for 60 minutes or Dateline, and I did this long, like... In 1968, you starred as Gandalf, and I just like hit him with like Shakespeare and all this stuff to impress him. And in the end, you called me and you were like, hey, this tape that I'm looking at is the worst tape I've ever. This is so boring.
What are you doing?
We can't, we're not Dateline. We're 22 minutes of moments. You just need a moment. You said, if the water glass spills on the floor and the bread basket is dropped in his lap, that's a moment. If, you know, he laughs about something, that's a moment. I said, oh. And the rest was history. After that, it was just moment after moment.
You know how I learned about that? From Pat O'Brien. I was doing a piece with Tommy Lasorda for CBS Sports when I was at Sports. And we were at his, I guess he had a red sauce for pasta.
Yeah.
Okay? Tommy Lasorda, sauce. And we're at his factory where he made it and it was all boxed up. And he picks it up and he drops it and it falls down on the ground. Okay? And Tommy goes, look at this. It doesn't even run. And like, I'm thinking, oh, we got a problem. Pat immediately, and that's a moment.
That's
that was
a whole
great.
piece.
That was great. It was a great thing.
After that, I brought pizza delivery to the Victoria's Secret models when they were backstage. Heidi Klum, Giselle Bundchen, Tyra Banks,
Billy, what
Naomi
you also
Campbell.
did was you asked questions and
J-Lo,
no
I asked
one
her
else,
about her butt.
right.
And
but you asked smart questions too that you don't get in this genre.
Yeah.
Hey, Billy.
And that's what really was the big difference.
Yeah,
Steve,
I was
you got
just
something to
thinking
say?
you're talking about early stories, and there's a million stories. But, and we didn't even put this on the docket for today, but the early stories, I was just thinking, give us a Jerry Seinfeld. The Jerry Seinfeld, the first time.
All right, we'll go out with Jerry.
You also got to talk about the Jessica Simpson.
Oh, Jessica Simpson. Well,
You know what I'm talking
part of the job is is dealing with publicists who are pushy and rude, and they think you're, basically a tool for them to use to promote their stars. They have no respect for you, in this genre at least, and probably others too. But Jessica Simpson, the rumors were everywhere that she and Nick were splitting. Nick Lachey, their
Right, the
marriage
cover of Us Weekly
was
every
over.
week.
The cover of Us Weekly just come out, and I was sitting down for an interview on set 2 hours outside of Los Angeles to promote
On a Saturday.
her shoe line. She had new shoe. So we go out there, and I simply found a way to just say, look, the headlines are everywhere. I don't want to pry into your personal life. I just want to give you an opportunity here to address them and to say, anything you want. And the publicist comes running in and she says, no, absolutely not. You can't do that. This is done. And I'm saying, we're filming the whole thing. And she goes, this is an interview about shoes. And I said, wow, okay. Bring on the shoes. And my producer gathers 20 pairs of shoes and he walks over and he drops them in my lap. And I've got shoes all over the place.
Here's the clogs.
Here are the clogs. I go, and look at this, a wedge. And I'm just like being very ornery about it. And we go back and I said, you know what, Rob,
We're gonna
screw these
air
publicists.
this.
We need to air this whole thing as it is. And Rob was like, you know what? We do. Fuck them. And so
aired them
we
all.
aired the whole piece with the publicist yelling, oh my
And
God.
she didn't speak to us for a couple of years, but the reaction from everybody within the industry was great. I was getting calls.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys thought somebody had the balls to do it. You guys did it. Thank you for exposing what goes on. All they had to do was say, all Jessica had to do, Billy, thank you for asking, but I'm not here to talk about that.
Right.
Bang.
Right.
And then if you continue, you're the jerk.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, that's all you have to do. And they didn't do it. They didn't prepare her. And then I ended up going to Joe Simpson's house a couple years later, and he showed me the trailer to a movie that she's going to be the next that Jessica's going to be the next Goldie Hawn. I forgot what movie.
But he forgot all about the shoes, and he was managing at the time.
And then we got on her good side. And that was good.
Many good years of Access Hollywood, 30 years, absolute institution.
But you know who was the biggest jerk?
Who?
I just have to get Paul Talegdi.
Oh.
Paul Talegdi, who I tried to bring you back into the show. And
He was
George
an NBC
Cheeks,
executive, yeah.
George Cheeks, who was also
Who's now president of CBS.
right. He was for it. I called you and I said
After the Today Show
I'm moving this
busting,
thing. I
Rob
want you
tried
back
to
at
hire
the
me
show.
back.
And George and just Talegdi, whatever. And maybe it went above his head, but he was just a jerk the whole time he was with us, and he didn't know what he was doing. And
He was the head of NBC
You'd walk into his office, you'd ask you a question, he wouldn't listen to it, and he got his. He ended up getting blown out and fired. And I had a moment in this studio with him, as you know, about 6 months ago when we saw him for the first time.
It was very awkward. There was a lot of tension. He leaned his head in the office to say hello, and
I was
and
ready
Rob
for
said,
him.
"You know what, you son of a bitch." I said, "Oh God, here we go."
Billy
And
and Hardy are looking at their phones as I'm going after this guy.
Oh,
because
we really did look
he treated
down.
us with such disrespect. Okay, and I was so Billy, I'm not a confrontation. You like confrontation. I
don't like it.
But you're more apt to do it than I am.
I will do it if I have to do it.
Okay.
The final story Steve mentioned, and we're going to go out because we've got a taping coming up here in a second. So, but the final story is the Jerry Seinfeld story.
It's great.
And Jerry, a New York icon, of course, and I'm the New York reporter for Access Hollywood, and Rob tells me I'm interviewing Jerry, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited, and yet, of course, I'm very nervous. I'm new on the job. I just really want this to go well, and I really want him to like me, and that's just an honest thing. I'm like, it would be so cool if Jerry liked me, and so I prepared. It's in the basement of a comedy club, and it's because of a DVD documentary he's doing about comedy. And I go down, the lights are set up in this comedy club, and I'm wearing a button-down, but a full-length button-down, like a Brooks Brothers shirt or something, and it's lavender. I can remember that. I'm thinking that's a nice soft color for Jerry. And Jerry's wearing a black sweater, collared shirt. It's like a cashmere sweater. And the lights are on, and it's a 2-camera interview. It's exclusive. It's fantastic. And we get going, and this is the way your mind can work, especially when you're new at the thing and you're not comfortable. And I start asking Jerry questions, and he sees I'm prepared, and it's going damn well. And I'm like, I'm sparring with Jerry, and it's really great. And then I start thinking about how well it's going. And then I start thinking, well, what if it didn't go well? Like, what if it went off? My mind, crazy-ass mind, starts taking me down a path of something that hasn't happened and there was no danger of it happening. And yet my thoughts about it are starting to will it. And I'm like, and I literally take myself off this fantastic path with Jerry, and I start to sweat. And a little, and I've got this lavender light thing on, and this little patch of sweat comes out. It's no bigger than the size of Rhode Island. And I'm like, please don't well, of course, now you think about it, Rhode Island becomes Massachusetts, which adds New Hampshire. And I'm like, this is...
Going up to Maine?
This is terrible. We're including Maine now, and then all of a sudden, it is Texas across the front. And Jerry's watching all of this unfold as he's talking and answering and working with me, but he's getting a little more okay. And finally he goes, I'm sorry, are you going to be okay? And I explode and I go, no, oh my God, I'm so nervous. I don't know why. And he's like, what are you nervous about? I said, because you're fucking Jerry Seinfeld and the whole thing. And I don't know, I'm new and the whole thing. And oh my God, It ended up being the greatest moment. He loved it. And I had years of exclusive interviews
Great.
with Jerry Seinfeld after that.
We were in the Cannes Film Festival running around.
He's like, bring me the guy. Where's the guy who sweated with me? I need him. Let's go run around Cannes with him. And we ended up doing the greatest things with Jerry. And I think it was just the honesty of the moment and the, oh boy.
That's authenticity.
Yeah.
That's what that's about.
Anyway,
that was a great run, Bill.
Long
We
live Access Hollywood. What a great thing. What a great show. And I loved it. And finally, on this St. Patrick's Day, we'll go out. We were going to start with it, but we're going to end with it. And that is a St. Patrick's Day message from our friend Tucker Carlson. Okay. Bye-bye.
Good evening. I'm out here searching for leprechauns. These are tiny little Irish alcoholics looking to get your children drunk. You may think they're innocent, being as they're on the Lucky Charms box and all. But that's what mainstream media wants you to think. Why do you think there's no gold behind our currency? Because the leprechauns took it all and put it in a pot. Now, we all love a capitalist, but leprechauns are just agents of chaos looking to get young people hooked on whiskey and Guinness. You know, Ireland needs to answer for this. Leprechauns, they're magically malicious.
This kid is all over Instagram, and he's the only one who does a Tucker Carlson impersonation.
That was not Tucker?
No, it wasn't Tucker.
Oh, I had no idea.
It was just a kid who's dedicated to doing Tucker Carlson impersonations.
Well,
I texted Tucker Carlson.
The laugh is just dead on.
I said, Tucker, have you seen this kid? He goes, I don't look at people that do anything that talk about me. I said, okay. That's it. We're done. Hot Mics with Billy Bush is over for today. We're back tomorrow, 9 a.m. I don't know if we can keep it up, but it's awfully fun. Live, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, Monday to Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow. And that's it. Ta-ta.
Me doing me, right?
Right as sharp. That's insane.
Billy Bush, what a pleasure.
Another compliment. There she is.